starts her move toward the paint, goes to Cayetta at the free throw line. Her jumper's good.
Well, she's money in the second half.
Eloisa's got 18 on the night, 48-36 Devils. Gibson ends at the Bankhead, whose runners off the glass, no good. Grice the rebound, and that will be that. And as we said, Arizona State responds beautifully after suffering their first loss of the year on Saturday at BYU. They come back with a dominant second half and a convincing 68-45 victory over UCF here tonight at Desert Financial Arena. Hello again, and welcome to this week's edition of In the Huddle with Molly Miller, your look inside Arizona State women's basketball. I'm Jeff Munn. We're coming to you from the Weather Up Center, and we will return to Blanco Cochina y Cantina on Monday evening, January 19th. We have a lot to get to, special guests, including Associate Head Coach Stephanie Norman and two of our outstanding Sun Devil guards, Marley, Washenitz, and Gabby, Elliott. But first, let's say hello to ASU women's basketball head coach Molly Miller. We're into the grind of the season in January, but it also just continues to be fun. And the other thing about the schedule now, I had a guy ask me this the other day about, are you guys ever going to play at home? And we had the game with UCF. I always remember something the late Paul Westphal said when he coached the Suns. Every year they'd ask him, boy, you've got this road trip here, road trip there. And he would always say, it's 41 at home and 41 on the road. Now, it's not quite like that with a college team, but once you get into conference, it's an even split, and now you start to get a lot more games at home.
Yeah, I actually, because our students aren't here over the break, it wasn't a bad thing that we were playing on the road at that time, so you can hopefully, I like to have more home games in February than that stretch in between December and January. But yeah, back on the road, and it was good to be back at UCF. It felt like it'd been a while. You always like to play home in front of your home crowd.
We talked about it that night, and I think we talked about it on our last show about the way the team would respond after having its first loss of the year. And I know you were very pleased with the way they played against UCF, and you were also pleased with the way they practiced leading up to that game.
Yeah, there was some intent the way we practiced those 2 days. I think when you can take a step back and learn, really dive into game film, be pretty nitpicky. You're allowed to be nitpicky after a loss. The details are really important. Our kids locked in. You could tell during film sessions they were kind of nodding, looking at. They were very direct with, hey, we understand what we need to do better. Let's go do it on the court. And so they're like, we'll prove it. And so they did. In practice, they proved it. And then I thought the best thing that I saw was our rebounding that game.
Yes, and it was very impressive, the rebounding numbers against UCF. Something that we've talked about in the past, and it's appropriate that we have Gabby on because I've used this with her, but there's so many other players, is the basketball IQ.
Yeah.
You talk about how your players responded, and they almost anticipated and told you, yeah, we need to get better than that. Or get to better at certain things. That's an indicator of the basketball IQ of this roster.
It is, and I think that has a lot to do with the experience on this roster. That's the good thing about when you recruit in the portal. These are proven college players at this level, and so they have an understanding of what it takes. They have an understanding of how the game flows, adjustments that need to be made. And when you can rely on people like Gabby and Marley, who have done it for 4 years, then they're able to kind of help the others along the way, but they're voices for us. They're very vocal. And when we're in practice, specifically, I remember those 2 days, Marley and Gabby were just talking. I'm like, I feel good about this team right now because they're taking ownership in this. It's not just coaches barking out orders because we had a loss. It's our players really engaged.
Yeah, and the other thing that, as you can imagine, 16-1 on the season as we're taping this, I hear from a lot of people who are very pleased at the way things are going. And the one thing that I point out to a lot of people in the media is one of the more impressive things about this team is that the 5 starters you put on the floor most nights all came from different programs. They were someplace else a year ago. In the case of Gabby, she's been at multiple schools before coming to Arizona State. And so that goes back to the whole, what has really been impressive about the buy-in of this team, because they had to learn a system that maybe they didn't have a lot of experience with at the other schools where they had been.
Yeah, they definitely weren't accustomed to what we see now on the court. And that was an opportunity and a challenge at the same time. You're bringing a bunch of strangers together who have all different sorts of experiences, have all different types of strengths and weaknesses. As coaches, we have to figure out how to mesh them together, but also get them to buy into the brand of basketball that we're convicted to. And obviously that's the defensive end, but we're going to play hard and share the ball on offense. And in order to do that, you have to understand one another. So McKenna has to know how Gabby scores, and Gabby has to know how Elle scores, and Elle needs to know what Poa's kill spots are. So we all have to learn as we go, and we did that nicely. The thing that I didn't seem to get much pushback on is how we're going to do it. Like the why was going to come. Like, why are we doing this? We'll figure that out because we're going to figure each other's strengths and weaknesses out. But how we're going to do it, that was a non-negotiable. We're going to do it hard. We're going to go hard.
Right.
We're going to play with intensity. Effort is, you have to show up every day. Your motor has to be on a high gear. So they were bought into that from the very get-go. And that's what made this transition so smooth, I think, for all of us.
The fact, and we've talked about how much comfort you take in knowing that your team's going to play hard every night. And I think back to the crowd we had the Wednesday game against UCF. They've bought into this. They recognize. Sometimes, fans get zeroed in on you got to win. But this fan base, I think, has really picked up on how hard this team plays. They appreciate it. Yes, they want to win. But the thing they appreciate the most is the effort.
Yeah, it's a treat because when you have we talked about IQ, I think we've got a fan base with a pretty high IQ.
Yes.
And, you can tell when there's a roar, there's like we're getting our third stop in a row and they want to see that defensive intensity pick up. And then, when I go give the high fives on the floor seats, that's one of the things they say, like, thank you, this team's fun to watch. The effort is there. We love how hard they work. And to me, that's a nod to the brand and what we're doing. And then our kids just playing their tails off every time they step foot on the court. We don't want to get outworked. We don't want to get outplayed. But we definitely don't want to get out-hustled to the floor, out-hustled to a rebound, loose ball going out of bounds. We want to be the first one to it, diving on the floor. It's exciting basketball to play, but a lot of times that'll create a lot more opportunities for you.
There was a moment in the game Wednesday against UCF where Poa had made a really sharp pass, and I think it was to McKenna, and UCF immediately called a timeout, and you literally ran out on the court and hugged Poa. To me, that's a special moment because I know how important it is to you as a coach to positively reinforce your players when they're doing the things you want them to do.
Yeah, that moment was more than just a celebratory hug because, what the outside doesn't know is just these daily film sessions and the daily feedback and the daily grind that these players go through. And I set Poa down in my office for about 45 minutes after the BYU game, and we watched game film of kind of why she wasn't the one that was getting the nod to be out on the floor. And when she got to see it herself, she's like, oh, I didn't know it was that bad, coach, that I wasn't crashing. And I was like, I need you to do these things and you will see the court. So it was a little bit of a aha moment for her. But to her credit, when I was pretty critical about the game film, and we pulled clips from Coppin State all the way to BYU, and we watched them, and we watched where she was really good, and then we watched where she wasn't so good. And again, credit to her, she embraced that whole film session. That's hard to see yourself on the court mess up and not get defensive or not sulk. She didn't do any of that. She was like, I got you, coach. I got you. And I said, so here's what I need you to do. And we listed everything out because here's what you're not doing right now, but here's how you can help this team. Literally the next two practices, it was a different Poa. And that's maturity.
Yes.
That is being a good teammate. That is being coachable. All the things that we want in a person to represent our program, she showed and she put forth, and I thought she had one of her better games to date, and all that credit goes to her because she was able to take some instruction and feedback, flip a switch, and then play Poa basketball.
Exactly, and knowing Poa, getting to know her, that it doesn't surprise me to hear that she was receptive to what you were trying to get across to her. And the other thing real quick is players, we tend to forget sometimes that players, when you're playing the game, you may be doing things that you're not aware that you're doing or not doing.
Yeah, the film doesn't lie, and that's what the beauty of film is you can go back and study it, and then you can see, here's some weaknesses, and let me show you why. I'm not just making this up out of thin air. Like, I need you to do X, Y, and Z better. And then they see it and they say, oh, yeah, I understand. And then they do that on the court, and then they do it in the game, and then it's kind of like that's growth. That's how you get better as a basketball player. And
this team obviously continues to get better as we move through the season. As I mentioned, we have a lot of special guests, and two of them, Marley Washenitz and Gabby Elliott, will be up next as In the Huddle with head coach Marley Miller continues after this break on the Sun Devil Radio Network.
Some games you remember forever. The ones where the arena shakes and the crowd feels like one heartbeat. Games where the noise takes over the building. And now, those games are here. With Big 12 conference play, these aren't the games you watch later. They're the ones you have to be there for.
Elliott on the angle left side. Gabby will shoot a three from there and hit it. 12 points for Gabby, 61-41 Devils.
Elliott way out front with three. Got nothing going. Washenitz fires. Oh, my goodness! Marley Washenitz picked up a loose ball and flung it toward the hoop and banked it in for her first bucket of the game.
Oh, wow.
You have got to be kidding me.
Welcome back to In the Huddle with Marley Miller. I'm Jeff Munn, and we continue our program here from the Weather Up Center. And one of the things that we remember from a previous show is what a great time we had with ASU guard Marley Washenitz. And you're already laughing. I mean, was that you laughing or was that Gabby?
No, that was me.
Okay, just so I'm sure.
Yeah.
But Marley was so great, we had to bring her back on. And we also brought on for the first time her fellow Sun Devil guard, Gabby Elliott. Welcome to you both. Nice to have you here.
Yeah.
Appreciate you having us.
Yeah,
for
thanks
sure.
for having me.
You're both, it's funny, we're taping this on a day when it's like 50 degrees outside, and I'm layered up. I think we talked about this the last time you were on. You're both coming to Arizona State from Pennsylvania. When we were there in December, all I could think of was, if we win the toss, let's start on defense because it's too cold. That's a football thing. But I know I've asked you about this, Marley, so I'll ask you, Gabby. You must be pretty happy to be in weather where 50 degrees is cold.
Definitely. Definitely a different type of look at a 50, but not complaining at all.
No, not at all.
No.
There is, I want to touch on a couple of things basketball-wise. You're both at a milestone point. I think you haven't reached 100 games yet. You're very close, right? And you've already passed 100 games. I'm going to take you back to the Utah game. Late in the game, the Devils are down, I think, 1 or 2 points. You have the ball. You're driving in from the right. A double team comes at you.
Yeah.
And you got a pass over to Marley in the left corner, and she hits a three. On the air, and I can validate this because we have the tape, I said at the time, I know a lot of players that would have tried to finish that play, but I thought it was a real tribute to your basketball IQ that you knew the better thing to do was get the ball to the open player.
Definitely.
And that's where, when we talk about 100 games played, and I'll start with Gabby on this, experience pays off so much when you're especially in a late game situation.
Yeah. 110, I don't disagree with that at all. Just having experience and just knowing kind of what to expect. I feel like not everybody expected me to have the ball, or at least, but not everybody's expecting me to make that right pass all the time, because honestly, sophomore Gabby Elliott probably would have forced it up.
Yeah.
I would have tried to make something happen when I knew I also had a teammate, that can hit the shot as well. But also, me and Marley had that relationship. Like, believe it or not, me and Marley had a whole conversation within that split second of me having the ball and me throwing it to her. But just little stuff like that definitely comes along with the experience. And also knowing I can trust her. There's not a moment in a game or practice. If Marley knows if I'm passing it to her, I want my assist. I need you to shoot the ball.
That's right. That's right. And Marley, we talk so often in basketball about team game, get your teammates involved, but there's also a point, and that play was one of them, where you knew exactly when you got the pass, you needed to take the shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we play such a unselfish style of play to where I understand my role and everyone understands theirs as well. So understanding that the play was drawn up for Gabby, and we've had multiple plays and multiple times and positions for different people, not only just Gabby, and just being able to have that trust from her, builds confidence in me. And that's what you want in your teammates. You want people to pour into you as much as you pour into them. And so I'm really fortunate to say that we have that here. But from an experience standpoint, having that with Gabby and me and Poa and then obviously so many other people, it's really awesome to see, because you guys can connect on such different levels, and you've been through so much in college basketball, and so you're able to relate more. And then I think our maturity just top to bottom has been great. I mean, we talk about experience, but you look at our freshmen, and Martina's had so much experience in the pro leagues, and you look at Amaya, and not many people could guess she's a freshman the way she plays.
No.
So I think as a whole, because of our experience, we've been able to kind of put that and imprint that onto everybody else in the team and spread it, because we know as a team, like, we need everybody to win. And so been really, really fortunate for this group.
In a split second like that, and I'm again focusing on that play at Utah, it's a balancing act. You want to be a team-oriented player,
Definitely.
but you have to make an instinctive decision to take the shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the clock was ticking down too, so I knew, I probably, if I pass it to a teammate, I was going to put them in a bad position to get a shot up in 2 seconds. So it's also clock management, and I think again that comes with the experience piece of knowing that I should take the shot, because if not, it's not from a selfish standpoint, but it's from a point of, if I give it to a teammate with 1 or 2 seconds left, I'm putting them in a bad position. And so just knowing and having that clock awareness, I think definitely comes with experience. But I mean, back to the start of the play, it was drawn up for Gabby, and again, this team's just so unselfish, and we care more about winning opposed to these small little, I need to get my shots and yada yada. And so, like she said, I want to give her assist.
Exactly. The other part of it, as you mentioned, the play was designed for you. And obviously the defense kind of anticipated it, and that's why the double team occurred. In a situation like that, as much as Coach Miller teaches defense, stresses defense, when you spoil the other team's defensive plans, that has to feel really good.
It does, for sure. It really does. You feed off stuff like that, because that's also stuff that we work on. We work on blowing up certain stuff, so just to see it come back on other end, it's like, wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
when you get to the end of the shot clock and you give up a shot or a layup or a three, I mean, defensively, it's just so heart crushing. And so when you're able to do that to another team, it's awesome. And I think a lot of teams in our league are very offensive oriented. And so for us, and having our defense, a lot of people's defense fuels from their offense, and we're very opposite. Our offense fuels from our defense. So when we get stops and we get in our momentum and we get in the flow state on defense, we're able to get it on offense.
Yeah, and it was on the road too, and there's nothing like, and just a little insight, if you weren't listening or watching that day, friends, Utah, I've not been in a building where they do more to try to whip the crowd into a frenzy than they do at Utah. I warned Coach Miller before the game. I said, just so you know, they play music when the other team's shooting free throws. And I used to complain about that all the time, and I just gave her a heads up, just get ready for that. Winning on the road, especially at a place like that where they're doing everything humanly possible to get the crowd to go after you, that has to be fun to win a game, and especially in the fashion that you won that game on a last-second shot.
Yeah, stuff like that's what you live for, especially being a college athlete. And Molly set it up for us like that this preseason. We had a lot of on-road games, so that meant a lot of road wins. And stuff like that, it feels good, because we've had multiple games like that. You talk about Utah, you got Gonzaga, you got all those schools like that.
Oregon State.
Yes, those were not no quiet gyms. So.
No.
By any means. They were sold out.
So that really just prepped us for something like Utah, because now we got TCU coming up next. It's not going to be quiet. So to go in and to already be prepared for something like that, we're prepared for it to be loud. We're prepared to not be able to hear our coach and to be able to rely on hand signals, or even just, hey Marley, what we running, stuff like that. But we prepare for it. But it's definitely adds a cherry on top to the win always.
Absolutely. and look, let's give our own crowd a little credit.
Oh yeah.
The Colorado game, 7,800. UCF, we had a good crowd, and I made mention of this, I think, to you the last time you were on, yeah, you're zoned in. You're concentrating on what you need to do,
Mm-hmm.
but you're aware of it when you're at home and everybody in the stands in maroon and gold is cheering you on.
Oh no, for sure. That game was just like I don't know. I don't never think I've played in front of a home crowd that big, to be honest with you, in my whole
Agreed.
college career. So to have fans show up and show out like that, that's what you want. But also, I'm pretty sure they were at home watching the games like, oh no, we got to go see what they're about. So all of that, I feel like, just shows the work that we're putting in and like the things that we're doing. We're really trying to change the culture here, and it does start with fan bases like that for sure.
Absolutely. And friends, if you haven't been to a game yet, Saturday, January 17th against Kansas at 2 o'clock at Desert Financial Arena, and we definitely want to see you there in the stands. Talking about some of the other milestones, just a quick thought. You also just passed 100 3-pointers for your career.
Yes.
I'm pretty certain that it wasn't something you were consciously thinking of, that somebody probably told you after the game, right?
Yeah. It was Britt. It was Britt actually before the game, and the only reason
Let me just explain. Brittany Graham, who
Yes.
handles our social media.
Yes, and the only reason she told me before is because I think I was at 99 for like 2 games. And she was like,
Oh,
Gab,
yeah.
She's like, I got
I've
this.
had this
Yeah.
graphic ready. I just need one. So after I hit the first one, I was like, okay, let that go and get to play now. But milestones like that, especially with the journey that I've had, is just I'm happy I get to celebrate, and especially here with my teammates and the coaches and doing something special. So happy I got that.
Well, we're very, very glad that the journey for both of you has led you here to Tempe.
Yes.
Thanks again for coming and being with us. And you, a second time, third time, you get some kind of prize for being on this show.
Can't wait to see.
Okay, well, we'll work on that. Gabby, Marley, thank you both.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Yeah, thank you.
More of In the Huddle with head coach Molly Miller right after this on the Sun Devil Radio Network.
In the Big 12, it's up for grabs, and anybody can go and get it.
Who wouldn't want to watch this team play?
Tickets are on sale as we speak at thesundevils.com, and I wouldn't waste one more second. Get on the website right now and get them. Welcome back to In the Huddle with Molly Miller, your weekly look inside Arizona State women's basketball. I'm Jeff Munn. You know that you've been a good guest on this program if you get a call back. So we're bringing back a guest we had just a couple of weeks ago, ASU Associate Head Coach Stephanie Norman, a former Sun Devil player as well, joins us again on the program this week. And we still have so many other things we can talk about aside from what we discussed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. First of all, for the fans that don't know, Stephanie's been in the coaching end of things for a number of years. How much has the game changed since you started coaching?
The game itself, I don't think has changed all that much. The players have changed. The strategies, the execution, the elevated talent is different, but it also is the same. Elite players take over games and make things happen. Tougher teams win. But how you approach it, I think, has been a little bit different. How we coach it is definitely different. Now, if you're asking me how we coach, absolutely. The players are the same, though. There's elite kids that have a mentality that's just different. But how you coach them has changed, for sure.
Now, you mentioned, and it's true, tough teams win.
Mm-hmm.
This team is winning, and I know that that's something that you pay close attention to, is that make certain that this team is tough, that they're playing hard all the time. That's never really been an issue since the season started.
No. It is something that Coach Miller prides herself on, and when, she orchestrated this team, one of the commissions that she put on all of us is to find kids that fit her culture and play hard. It's sort of an oxymoron. You don't have a kid at Arizona State that doesn't play hard. It just doesn't jive. It doesn't fit. So our kids do play hard. Then the whole contexture that we have to get into is that they have to play hard and they have to play smart. And so sometimes you have teams that are just amazingly, they scramble and they're doing all the things, but they're not playing very smart because maybe they're fouling too much or they're not using the strategy in the proper way. So we have to sort of break that down and get them into spaces where they're also playing with their intellect and they're playing with their physical attributes.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we talked about this a number of times, both with Coach Miller and you and Jason, about putting this roster together.
Mm-hmm.
And how you emphasized culture fit as much as talent. Is that easier to do or identify with a player who's been in a Division I program as opposed to when you're recruiting high school players?
It's like the Fast and Furious
right.
Because we really have, I don't know, a 2 or 3 week window to put this roster together when we started. And so it really mattered our relationships with club coaches, high school coaches. So when you make those phone calls and go, this is kind of what I'm looking for. You could look at the film and go, ooh, that kid's really good.
Yeah.
But trust is the biggest commodity in this industry. And so you have to rely on the people that you trust to tell you the truth about some kids. And, sometimes they're just in a system that doesn't accentuate their skills enough. And so they get lost in the shuffle. And I look at someone like, I'll just take Elle, for example. She was the third string post on Ole Miss's team, and they have some great post players ahead of her. Well, for us, she's the first team, and she's getting minutes. But, like, in her, I think, career at Ole Miss, she scored 22 points total. Well, she just had 20 in our game last night. So kids, some of them just need opportunities to shine, and when they do, they blossom. I mean, I look at like the football stories. When you have a Division II quarterback starting at Ole Miss, you have a 2-star guy starting at Indiana. To me, those are the most heartwarming stories because everyone kind of passed on them, and then they have a chip on their shoulder and something to prove. And I love to find kids like that. I've identified some already this year, and I actually told Molly a couple weeks ago, I'm getting more comfortable understanding what you want. When we first came, I'm just trying to find the best player and then make sure she's a decent human being and that she's coachable and a good teammate. But now I feel like I can be a little more picky because we don't have like this little window. And I'm like, that one's not going to work for Coach. Not that that kid might not work somewhere else, but for what she wants and how she wants to build this. We're trying to lay a foundation not just for this year, but for many years to come. We are trying to build a program, not just a basketball team, and that takes some time, and it identifies what kind of kids you really want to bring in and be known for. So, yeah, we're all about it.
I know we can't get into specifics, but given the success that you've had so far this year, do you find that prospective student athletes, whether through the portal, whether through high school, it's a little easier to make a connection with them when you say I'm from Arizona State?
Yeah, because it just like anybody that's taken over in a program, you're kind of like an anomaly, right? Like, oh yeah, you say you're going to win. I tell every recruit that I talk to, what I'm most proud of is the 3 that invested in us without a record. When I look at Avery and Q and London, that they committed to us in the belief of what we were going to do. And trust, like I said before, is one of the hardest commodities to capture. And for those kids and those families to understand what we presented and how we were going to make it happen, and their belief in us, to me, is far outweighs anybody in the future, because it's real easy to like us now when we're 16-1, and you're like, oh. But at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, winners win. And I don't care if I was with Louisville, if Molly was at Drury, if she was at Grand Canyon. There's a standard of excellence that happens. That, we all don't get to these positions by happenstance and just like, oh, we got lucky. We know what we're doing, and I'm very confident in that, and I am obsessed with winning, and so I just say look at our resumes, all of us, and what's going to happen. We're not going to settle for anything less.
I know one thing that the staff emphasized in looking at players is how well they defend, because that's the foundation of any Molly Miller program. And I've always been of the belief, and this is something that I came to believe when I worked in baseball. You give me a team in baseball that if you could give me 8 Gold Glove defenders at the 8 positions, I don't care what they hit, they're going to win games. Is that kind of true if you were given a roster of 5 just tremendous defenders, but they may not have the greatest offensive skill set, would you still think, hey, we're going to win?
We'd compete. Now, it's going to take me a few years to probably come around to Coach Miller's philosophy, because her and I go back and forth all the time. I come from a program and have been raised up that in order to win, you got to score one more point than the other team. And last time I looked, I think that's the case in any sport. And so I have been raised up in an offensive-minded situation where I do my best to hide players on defense and to sort of scheme around it. Always haven't had the best defenders, but at the end of the day, we can score. And last time I looked, you have to score one more point than the other team. So I think Molly and I balance each other out, and it makes it fun because I'm always trying to like encourage her about some offensive things, and she's like, "Nope, we're married to this." And although she, we all love offense, the foundation definitely has to be defense, and I am well aware of that and very much in line with that mantra. But at the same time, I sort of poke fun at her because I'm trying to find kids who can score. It puts butts in the seats. It's just a natural inclination, right? If you go to a baseball game, a purist wants 1-0.
And I'm a purist.
Yes. But the rest of us who I didn't grow up with baseball, I'd love to go see a 10 to 11 game and be fired up about it. But so all that being said, I'm trying to find kids that can have some offensive prowess, but at the same time are like make an effort at least. We can help them get better on defense for sure. But sometimes I can't, if you're not a three-point shooter, no matter what kind of work we're doing, if your shot's jacked up, that could be a lost cause. But I think the most important thing when scaling a team is that you have diversity. And when I mean diversity, I'm talking about in skill sets. So some kids might be elite defenders, which you're going to need some of those in her system. And I think we've definitely got two of those with Q in London. I mean, when I first saw them, I just was like, you are the perfect candidates for a Molly Miller scheme. And then I saw Avery and I was like, oh my gosh, we'll put you on the other side. And she just made 10 threes in her last game, high school game. And what a welcome spot that's going to be for us to just have a knockdown shooter. Then we put together the rest of the team going, okay, we need another shooter on the other side. So next year's class needs to include somebody like that. And then we need a stretch four that can, spare Bracken some. So there's just a lot of things that go into it when you try to put a team together. And I think the diversity of skill set is something that we have to continue to identify.
Okay, that brings up, and I may have asked you this question the last time you were here, so I apologize if I did. But when you're facing a team, and I think of some of the teams that the Devils have seen already, Utah can play up tempo. Penn State likes to light up the scoreboard. We know that Iowa State is always going to have a lot of offense with Audie Crooks. When you face a team like that, and when Molly's game planning for that, does she go get extra input from you because offense? Does she go to you and say, okay, what makes this work?
Yeah, no, Glove is our he really does a great job with putting together all of the offensive schemes. And I'm going to tell you, Molly's elite when it comes to film. She broke down Utah, and she's like, man, I really love their stuff. And so we actually threw in a couple of things that Utah does now. We sort of added that, and I think that's what great coaches do. They study film. I mean, for years, when I was at Louisville, I stole stuff from Notre Dame because I really liked what they did with Muffet when she was there. And we'd steal plays, and I'd call them Irish. I'd call them Notre Dame. I give them credit at least. Yeah. But you see elite things happen in skill set of kids, and then you're like, hey, we need a couple of these in this conference. Once we go through it after a year and see like, oh gosh, there's some big bigs in here, we probably need to get some size, or there's a lot of shooters, we need to get some ourselves. So you change over the course of time because you see what the opponents have and you need to counter that, and then you also see the style of basketball, and it's important, again, to have a little bit of everything on your team and not just be married to one concept. And those teams that shoot a lot of threes and, are 4 out, 1 in, or 5 out, I can't remember the last time one of those type of teams got to a Final Four. You have to have an inside game and an outside game, I believe. And those were the best teams when I was a part of the coaching staffs at Louisville, is that we had a little bit of both. We just weren't a 5 out, going to shoot all 3 type of teams. That'll get you far, but it's not going to get you to a Final Four, and those are the goals we have. So I just think you have to have a little bit of everything so that people can't just scheme against one style of play.
I knew we'd have a lot more things to talk about, and I didn't even get to everything, so you're going to have to come back.
That's it? That's all we have?
That's it. We're out of time.
What? I was hoping we could talk about.
No, that's it.
My educational opportunities here at ASU.
Coach Norman will be back on a future show. Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate
Good to
it.
see you. We're back with more of In the Huddle with Molly Miller after this break on the Sun Devil Radio Network.
Some games you remember forever. The ones where the arena shakes and the crowd feels like one heartbeat. Games where the noise takes over the building. And now, those games are here. With Big 12 conference play, these aren't the games you watch later. They're the ones you have to be there for.
Back for our final segment of In the Huddle with head coach Molly Miller. A reminder, we're back at Blanco on Monday evening, January 19th at 6 p.m. We'd love to see you there, and you'll really enjoy the food at Blanco. Tremendous Mexican restaurant with a lot of interesting twists to their menu, and you'll really enjoy it. I always like to use the final segment to kind of get to know Molly Miller a little bit from a basketball standpoint. What coach influenced you the most?
The most was probably my dad. Mm-hmm. You know, I was able to be a coach's kid. Some positives in that and some negatives in that. But the positive was I firsthand saw the passion in which he taught. And to me, that's been an edge of mine, is the energy and the passion and the love I have for the game. And hopefully that trickles down to our players, because I saw that influence from my father. So I played with a passion. I played for a love of the defensive side, and all those things are a little bit contagious when you're around it 24/7. So he also did things the right way. You know, he wasn't a coach that just would yell and scream at you up and down, really explained the why and taught the game. And so I took some of that from him also, that we're going to coach and we're going to have dialogue based on respect. He pushed me, you know, he pushed me, but he saw the best in me. He wrapped his arms around me, and so that's how I coach now. I'm going to push these kids to a standard maybe they don't even know that they can meet, and keep pushing them and hold them accountable. But I'm also going to love on them and wrap my arms around them and be their biggest cheerleader.
Absolutely. Do you, when you're in the midst of a game, you don't think of these things. It's all about your team. But do you get, I'm trying to think of the right word, when you coach against an Iowa State and you're going against Bill Fennelly, when you're coaching against Gavin Peterson or Nikki Collin at Baylor, does that enter into your thought? These are well-established Big 12 coaches. Does that enter into your thought process?
Just the fact that I have a lot of respect for them.
That's where I was going with it.
I know we have great coaches in this league. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you steal from them. You know, there's been a play or two, an out-of-bounds play. I remember Utah ran. I'm like, I like that. Maybe we should put that in. So you share the answers. They have great ideas. But I think when game time comes on, you kind of have these blinders on. It's just us. You know, we've got to rely on our prep and what we've done and our abilities as a coaching staff and their abilities as a player. And hopefully we've gotten them as much preparation in the scout as we can, and then you move forward. But, it's more of an honor to coach on the same sideline with some of these coaches in this league.
Absolutely. I also have been around you enough to know now that you really love breaking down film, that game planning and getting right on the computer and looking at things almost immediately after a game is something you really enjoy.
I do. I can't wait to do it. In fact, I like to watch the ESPN broadcast, and then I like to watch the clip. Our video coordinator, Kate, does a great job of clipping them and sending them to me right after the game. So there's always an after-action report that I do. One, it just, if you're going to play them again, it's helpful. But two, you just look at ways to get better. You know, if other teams exposed you in one area, you learn from that and you break down game film. And then I think it's really helpful to do with our players. I think I really like that part of the job, is just sitting one-on-one with a player and diagnosing, you know, game film and how they can get better and what they can do differently. And that's how I learned. I think that's was a tool as an assistant coach. I love doing scout. I love breaking down film. So I never stopped, because usually you kind of separate scouts into assistants. But I had dabble in a little bit of all of them. I do all the scouts. I just can't help myself. So even when some of our assistants that I hadn't worked with in the past are like, why are you doing this? I just love it. I can't help myself. And I really like the strategy behind it too. I look for little nuances that we can pick apart. So it's fun for me.
Yeah, and I'm a strategy guy too, and I love that aspect of just any sport. I was mentioning to Gabby and to Marley the late game play at Utah, when Gabby got the pass to Marley and she knocked down the three-pointer. They had set up a defense anticipating that Gabby was going to be the one to finish the play. They brought a double team over. I asked Gabby this question. Well, I asked them both, and I'll ask it to you. As much as you focus on defense, when you're able to spoil what another team's trying to do defensively, that has to be very satisfying as well.
Yeah, and a lot of credit to our assistants. I mean, Glove had that scout. Daniel had the UCF scout. They're always prepared. So even it's like end of game, what are the possibilities from an offensive standpoint? How are they guarding? Are they switching 1 through 4? Are they switching everything 1 through 5? Are they really top blocking Gabby and not letting her catch so we can use her as a decoy? So we already know that going in, what the strategy will potentially be. So we already have in our mind what plays could work. And you have to have that every night in the Big 12. You have to expect that it could come down to the wire. And then on the flip side, you're studying their end of game stuff that they've run. And so defensively, you kind of have a heads up, hey, be ready for this flare and slip, or be ready for this handoff. So, and we do, after our shoot around, we do end of game situations. So I don't know if the girls really know that there is strategy in there, that we've watched how they're guarding or how they're executing on offense late game. And then we just put it in and practice it, so it's not board to court foreign to them when we get in the game. They've run it a couple times, and then we can go board to court, and they know the timing and execution. So they've been really good and focused on that as well.
Let's look ahead to the Kansas game, which will be Saturday at Desert Financial Arena at 2 p.m. Tickets are available, by the way, at thesundevils.com. We'd love to see you there. This is Kansas, to me, is an example of what we talk about the strength of the Big 12, because so much national attention has been on TCU, a little bit on Baylor, a little bit on Oklahoma State, but the Kansas program is strong. It kind of fits into that category like Colorado. They may not get a lot of attention nationally, but they're really good.
Yeah, they are really good. I was watching the Kansas UCF game, which Kansas won, and they just have so many options from plays, and that's where Brandon's really good. Their coach, he'll counter your counters, so you almost have to counter him ahead of the time, which I love as a coach, because it's going to be a chess match.
Yes.
I mean, he really does a good job of reading defense and then trying to set up his team in plays that could expose you with how you're guarding. So he's masterful at that. So I'm excited for that piece of it. But I also know that they've got one of the best big guards that we're going to face. They've got size inside. They've got some shooters around them. So every spot on the court is going to be tough, and you got to be ready to guard.
The thing that I found interesting, I was mentioning this to a friend of mine the other day, is that in talking about the Big 12, this is ASU's second year in the conference. It's your first. And I mentioned to a friend of mine, our fans, I think, are still learning the rivalry aspect of the Big 12. There is a rivalry with Utah, with BYU, with you-know-who down south. But there are other programs, and we're just kind of starting out learning about those programs. And I know you talk to our fans quite a bit, and I would think that they probably have not really gotten into you of, we got to beat Oklahoma State. I know they started with you about 5 seconds after you signed your contract about beating that school down south. But it's still a learning process for everybody, not just you, your staff, because you're new. All of us are kind of figuring out the Big 12.
Yeah, and right now there's the top teams in the conference, and every conference have gotten knocked off. So
Right.
there's so much parity in women's basketball, but when you're talking about the Big 12, every night is going to be a dogfight, and you're going to be in a battle. I can't tell you how many games I've watched, and it's like already in the first half, there's been 10 lead changes, 12 ties, and it's just a back and forth ball game. So no matter who we're playing or when, it's going to be competitive. That's what I like about this league too, from top to bottom. And then when you're on the road, it's going to be tough. You got to win your home games. Like, there's just some stipulations that you really have to understand about this league. And it's fun, though. I love a battle every night.
Yeah, and we all love it, and it's been tremendous. I'm also curious to know, when you were at Drury or GCU, when ASU was in the Pac-12, it had the reputation of being the toughest conference in the country. And as much of a basketball fan as you are, I'm certain you watched a lot of Pac-12 women's basketball back in the day.
Yeah, there was also, being from the Midwest, it was like the West Coast plays a certain way, the Midwest plays a certain way, and the East Coast. Now it's all like you're going coast to coast in your conferences. So there's also a lot of mixture to the styles, which I like. I feel like we go down to Texas and it's a little bit different style when we're playing the Utahs and the finesse. So that's same thing. I mean, the conferences are so spread out now that I just think you get a lot of variety than when it was just, the West Coast Pac-12 or the Midwest Big 12 or whatever that looked like.
Yeah, and I'm just as part of the discussion, I think one of the things, one of the few drawbacks of being in the Big 12 is we don't get everybody in here.
Yeah.
Iowa State was here last year. It'd be great to bring Audie Crooks and Iowa State in this year, considering the way the season has started for Arizona State. We probably would need seats in the upper deck at Desert Financial that night. And that is one of the very few drawbacks, is you kind of wish that you could go home and home with everybody.
Yeah, having an unbalanced schedule, too, and being in the portal era is really confusing in itself, because technically some of the lower teams in the conference last year play the lower teams in the conference twice or rivals twice, and you just don't know if they're going to, look at Texas Tech, what they've done. They've made a huge jump. And so being unbalanced even makes it a little bit more tricky to know, you've got your must wins, you've got ones that you got to hang on to at home. You're not quite sure who you're going to play twice and how they're going to be. They could have been at the top and then gone to the middle half. You just never know where teams are going to fall year after year, especially in this conference.
Well, we know for sure every game is going to be a challenge, and the next one will be Saturday at Desert Financial against Kansas at 2 o'clock. Coach, appreciate the time. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Head coach Molly Miller with us. It's her show, and we'll be back with another one next week on In the Huddle with Molly Miller, right here on the Sun Devil Radio Network.
In the Big 12, it's up for grabs, and anybody can go and get it.
Who wouldn't want to watch this team play?
Tickets are on sale as we speak at thesundevils.com, and I wouldn't waste one more second. Get on the website right now and get them.